Hello and welcome. If you're prepping to become a certified investment advisor, then you are in exactly the right place. We're about to dive deep into what is arguably the most critical chapter for your NISM exam, the key regulations. Seriously, think of this as the rule book that's going to guide your entire career. Let's get into it. So, how are we going to tackle all this? Well, we're going to build what I call a pyramid of compliance. We'll start at the very bottom with the big foundational laws. Then we'll move up to the rules that keep the market fair. And we'll finish right at the top with the super specific regulations that will literally define your day-to-day job as an investment advisor. Let's get started. All right, let's lay the groundwork. Everything else we're going to talk about today is built right on top of two really important pieces of legislation. You absolutely have to understand what they do. It's actually kind of interesting to see how these two acts work together. You've got the SCRA from 1956. That's the original rulebook, mainly focused on making sure stock exchanges play fair. Then, decades later, you get the SEBI Act of 1992. This is the one that created the powerful regulator we all know, SEBI, and gave it a very clear mission: protect the investor, grow the market. So an easy way to think about it is, SCRA defined what gets regulated, and the SEBI Act created who does the regulating. So what can SEBI actually do? Well, its powers are pretty huge. You can see how they all connect back to that main mission. SEBI oversees everybody from brokers to folks like you. It cracks down on fraud and insider trading, and it even has a say in massive company takeovers. The one thing that ties all of this together, that mission, protecting the little guy, the investor. And yeah, the list just keeps going. SEBI is definitely not a toothless tiger. It can demand information, show up for surprise inspections, charge fees, and, this is the big one, hand out some serious penalties if you break the rules. It also handles duties given to it by the older SCRA, which pretty much makes it the central authority for the entire market. Okay, let's climb up to the next level of our pyramid. Now that we've established who the regulator is, SEBI, let's look at the specific rules it uses to make sure everyone is playing fair. We're talking about the big ones: fraud and insider trading. Now, this definition right here, this is a classic exam question, so listen up. According to SEBI, what is fraud? It's basically any act you commit to trick someone into buying or selling a security. And here's the key legal point, the real kicker. It doesn't matter if you meant to cause a loss or even if a loss happened at all. The act itself is the fraud. So what does fraud look like in the real world? The regulations are super specific. Telling an outright lie, hiding a really important fact, making a promise you know you can't keep, or even just saying something carelessly without checking if it's true, any one of those things can be legally considered fraud. These are the bright red lines you just can't cross. Right up there with fraud is the other major market crime: insider trading. So, who exactly is an insider? You might think it's just the CEO, but the definition is way broader than that. It's not just someone connected to the company. It's also anyone who just happens to get their hands on important, non-public information. That could be an employee, a consultant, or, yeah, even a family member who overhears something. And here we are. We've made it to the very top of our pyramid. This is the absolute core of what you, as a future investment advisor, have to know inside and out. These are the specific rules for your registration and your professional life. Let's start with the official definition. It's actually pretty simple. If you are getting paid, that's the key phrase, for consideration, to give investment advice as a business, then in the eyes of SEBI, you're an investment advisor. That's it. And that means all these regulations apply directly to you. Okay, so who gets a pass? Who isn't required to register as an IA? Pay close attention here because this can be tricky. This list includes people like mutual fund distributors or insurance agents, but, and this is a huge but, there's a condition. Their advice has to be purely incidental to their main job, which is selling a product. The second they start charging a separate fee just for the advice, boom, they usually fall under the IA rules and have to get registered. Getting your registration is just step one. Now, let's talk about your ongoing responsibilities. This part is all about the day-to-day rules of how you need to act and what you owe your clients. This slide, right here, gets to the absolute heart of what it means to be an investment advisor. That first point is the most important one: acting in a fiduciary capacity. Now, that's a fancy legal term, but it means something very simple and very powerful. You are required, by law, to put your client's financial interests completely ahead of your own, period. Every other rule you see here, disclosing conflicts, keeping secrets, it all flows from that one core duty. So how do you actually live up to that fiduciary duty every day? It all begins with the mandatory risk profiling process. And this is not just about filling out forms. It's a structured 4-step journey to really, truly understand your client. You gather their info, you figure out their tolerance for risk, you use professional tools, and then you talk it all through with them. This process is your #1 safeguard to make sure your advice is always, always suitable for them. And you have to write everything down. SEBI requires you to keep incredibly detailed records for a minimum of 5 years. We're talking everything from KYC documents and risk profiles to every single piece of advice you've ever given them. Just think of it this way. If it's not written down, it didn't happen. All right, so beyond all the hard and fast rules, there's also an ethical framework. This section covers the code of conduct and the investor charter. It's all about building and, more importantly, keeping the trust of your clients. You know, a really big part of your job is to educate your clients about their own rights and responsibilities. This investor charter is the perfect tool for that. You need to guide them to do the right things, like always working with registered advisors, and to avoid the don'ts, like falling for crazy promises of guaranteed returns. This doesn't just protect your client, it protects you too. Okay, our pyramid is built, but it doesn't just exist in a vacuum, right? Let's take a quick look at a couple of other really important laws that create the wider legal world that you're going to be working in. And if you ever wonder why it's so critical to operate within this legal world, just look at this number. If you ignore a direction from SEBI, the penalty starts at 1 lakh rupees per day. That is not a small fine. It's a very loud and clear message from the regulator to take every single one of these rules very, very seriously. Another law you absolutely must know about is the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. So what is money laundering? I mean, it's a term we hear all the time in movies and on the news. But what does it actually mean in our world, the financial world? To put it really simply, money laundering is the process of taking dirty money, money made from illegal activities, and making it look clean or legitimate. The Prevention of Money Laundering Act, the PMLA, is designed to stop that. And it puts a direct legal duty on financial professionals, and yes, that includes you as an investment advisor, to be on the lookout, to follow KYC rules to the letter, and to report anything suspicious. You are, in effect, a gatekeeper on the front lines of this fight. Okay, let's take a breath. We have covered a ton of ground. Let's boil it all down to the absolute must-know points for your exam. Ready? Number 1, SEBI's main job is to protect investors. 2, fraud is about the action, not the outcome. 3, your duty as an IA is fiduciary. Client first, always. 4, risk profiling isn't optional, it's a required process. And 5, keep your records for at least 5 years. If you can nail these 5 points, you are in fantastic shape. And I'll leave you with a little something to think about for the future. We all see AI tools becoming more and more common, right? The regulations even say advisors are responsible for AI-based advice. So as these tools get smarter, who's the fiduciary? Is it the human advisor who oversees it, the programmer who wrote the code, or could it one day be the AI itself? It's a huge question that's going to shape the future of this whole profession. Thanks so much for watching.